Ari, it's such a pleasure to meet you, man. How you going today?
To meet you, man. How are
I
you?
really appreciate. I'm doing well. I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm a huge fan of your work, and I'm a huge fan of this film. I have to say, I love movies, and your films have been a big part of my cinematic love, man. So thank you so much for taking the time.
I'm glad to see Bo is afraid there too. Thank you.
I'm a defender. I'm a defender. I'm a big fan. I watched it over the weekend before I saw Eddington, and I had a great time with it again. I also just want to point out first, I loved it for so long cinematically. Ennio Morricone has been sort of the soundtrack of the Western, and now we get Katy Perry's Firework as sort of the sound of the contemporary Western. I'm glad we kind of had a little bit of a change up there. But obviously with Eddington being a Western, I'm curious to know, I guess it's a bit of a chicken or the egg question, but I'm curious to know how the styles and structures of the Western sort of molded into this story you wrote, or was it vice versa? Was it you had the feeling to do a Western and you sort of created a story within that? What was that sort of process like for you?
Well, I'm from New Mexico. I grew up there. I've always wanted to make a film set in New Mexico because I know that region so well. And and just the Southwest in general is just a very interesting, strange place. And so, the terrain obviously lends itself
Yeah.
naturally to a Western, but the Western also felt applicable to me right now when I was deciding I wanted to make a film about this moment, about this environment that we're all living in.
Mm.
And to make a film that is inflected by like a truly modern realism, which is another way of
Sure.
saying all the characters are living in the internet,
Yes.
and uh having that not be like a background issue or just but having that be something that has changed these
Mm.
people and is changing these people, that felt important to me. And so the one reason that the Western felt interesting to me is because one, it's the national genre. It it's the genre that's about American history. It's contending with American history. It's also contending with like, the heroic myth of America,
Sure.
while at the same time, at its best, uh, ruminating on the reality of America. And it's about law versus lawlessness and forging new societies and borders. And it
Mm.
feels to me like we're living through the collapse of something big.
Right.
And it feels like we're also on the cusp of something uh that is in some ways unfathomable.
Mm.
And so we're standing on the edge of a new frontier. And so, what better genre than the Western to contend with that?
To put it all in there, and because and like you said, with the internet playing a massive role in the narrative itself, like the internet, there is a lot going on. There's a lot for the characters in this film to deal with, especially Joe. It just seems like every time he turns around a corner, something new enters Eddington, or something happens in his personal life, and it's this overload of information within the narrative that kind of adds to the experience of us as an audience. We're also watching it going like, holy shit, there is a lot going on. I'm curious to know what that process is like when you have a screenplay that is full of so much and about so much, how you sort of visualize that experience or sort of create the feeling around that for an audience to make us also kind of be in the shoes of a lot of these characters who are in Eddington.
Well, it's tricky, right? Because part of what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to pull back as far as I can and describe the structure of reality at the moment, which is that nobody can agree on what is happening. So I'm trying to include as many voices in this cacophony as possible without, neglecting to tell a story,
Sure.
uh, or be coherent, even though the movie's about an incoherent miasma. And for me, what was important was to understand who these people are, how they got into their silos, how they've essentially curated the world of information that they're living in, and to take them seriously,
Yeah.
and not condescend to any of them. And look, and the film is satirical,
Yeah.
so in many ways, it's taking on sacred cows, and it's pointing out hypocrisies or things that I find maybe frustrating on one side, or maybe things that are, catastrophic on another.
Mm,
But for me, the minute that I start talking down to any of these people, uh, the movie becomes just totally uninteresting
mm.
to
Yeah,
me.
no, absolutely. No, no. to me as well. That's the thing. I think that's been a lot of the discourse around this film, right? Is the fact that audiences, I feel like audiences a lot with film bring a lot of our preconceived notions into a lot of things, and it's interesting to watch a filmmaker who goes, no, 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 try and leave as much of that as you can at the door and experience what we're doing. A lot of the time, putting the onus on the audiences, I think, is a really fun thing for a filmmaker to do.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a movie where as I was writing it, there were plenty of things that I started to include, and every time something in my body came up saying, "Ari, don't do it," and well, that's
Sure.
proof that I should, right? I mean, in a
Mm,
way, it's like if I'm making this movie, if something's making me uncomfortable, like there's no excuse for not uh going there. Uh And, I think one reason that certain people maybe bump on it is also because it's kind of going after identities
yeah,
and all, and identity is becoming more and more important in in all of our lives. Uh,
I think that's very well realized with the character of Brian. I think that's very much someone who, yeah, that sort of storyline, yeah.
well, and he's somebody who he's sort of a chameleon figure. He's
Mm,
somebody
yeah,
who doesn't really have any conviction about anything. He's just looking for a community.
yeah,
Um, and then you have other people in his sphere that do really care, and maybe they cross lines without seeing it or noticing. But there are people in his in his story
yeah,
that are actually gripped by real conviction. And they're flawed, uh specifically the girl that he's going after. Like, she's flawed, but she cares. She's not cynical.
no,
She's just not fully self-aware. And yet at the
it's
same time, so many of these characters aren't self-aware, but they're paralyzed by self-consciousness.
yes, yeah.
I
This is
hit
it's very no, no, no. It's really incredible, and I think, funnily enough, sort of on that, I'm about to get wrapped here, but I recently watched your appearance on Office Hours Lives with Tim Heidecker. I'm a huge Tim Heidecker fan. I love all the work he does. Anyone who is a fellow fan of DJ Dugpound is all right by me. But you both talking about the reactions of people who get mad about making the art that they didn't want to see or that you didn't want them to make. I sort of think comes through the characters of this film a lot as well.
Yeah, well, we all lived through COVID. I
Mm,
mean, I I and none of us have really metabolized what happened there because we're still kind of living in it.
yeah.
It's not over. Whatever that process was that was started there, like it's not over.
No,
That it none of it's over. The virus isn't. It's all the
still there.
the one thing that's not there is that we're not locked down anymore at the
Mm,
moment. Um, but when everybody has lived through something, that's tricky because they're all looking for their movie, the thing that it's I think it was inevitable. But but and I think it's easy to get lost in the arguments of the characters and those, uh the the ideological grounds that all these characters are warring
mm,
on. But don't I would just say, for anybody who's thinking about the movie, don't get too lost in those, because the movie is
yeah.
really about a data center being built. That's
Yes.
that's what the movie's really about. It's
Yes.
it's about people who get caught in the trap of uh killing each other when something else
when
is happening,
something
like over
bigger and
their
badder
head.
is happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm getting wrapped here. I had a million more questions. One of them was about Solid Gold Magikarp, but like I said, Ari, you've been such a big part of my cinematic love over the last decade, man. So I really appreciate you taking the time to chat. Oh no, they said I can do one more question. Actually, here we go. So, well, I went down the rabbit hole of Solid Gold Magikarp, and I couldn't help but think about the interesting parallel between the fact that this Solid Gold Magikarp thing was about AI sort of filling in its own gaps and creating information where there wasn't holes that needed to be made when prompts were put in. And I'm curious, like we do that as humans too, whether it's with anxiety or things like that. We often think about things that aren't actually there yet or haven't happened. I'm curious to know whether that was sort of a conscious parallel for you when creating these characters.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the way you put it is really nice. I don't know how much I want to add to that, but I but but I yes, absolutely. That's there.
It's
And
so good.
I'm glad that you went down that solid gold Magikarp rabbit hole. That's
I when I saw it come up on the screen, I was like, I don't know if he's referencing Pokemon. So I had to Google it when I got home, and I was like, oh shit, no, of course it's not just a Pokemon. It's something completely different.
it's not just a Pokemon, but it's
No,
also a Pokemon.
that's what I also found out as well. And I think that's the fun thing. Your films always make me want to go and find out more about the worlds that they're set in and stuff. I appreciate you as a bold swing filmmaker. I often talk with a friend of mine who about movies who's actually going to talk to you soon about the fact that if we have filmmakers who are out here who are taking bold swings and if they hit or not, we still get like cool original shit in the cinemas, and that's what we love to see. So I appreciate you, man, and the movies you make. So thank you so
Uh,
much for taking the time to chat, Ari. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I hope we get to do it again soon for whatever you got coming up.
I hope so too.